What's going on, everyone? It's 4:48, Monday, June 28th, 2021, and we're going to cap the day off with a quick little video here. A prominent analyst details huge upside target for XRP, says crypto asset may be bottoming out against Bitcoin. Credible Crypto, one of my favorites, shout out to him. Some calling for new lows on XRP, BTC. While it's technically possible, I think a reversal off this region makes more sense considering XRP and USD is on a major historical support. I do agree with that. This other guy, and then he even says he's holding strong on his massive bet that XRP will hit $20 to $30 before the end of this current bull cycle. And then this goes into that bearish guy who talked about the head and shoulders, and I just don't even like what he's looking at right there, to be honest. If it looked a little more sound on that structure, I'd probably, talk more about it, but it's kind of weak. So here we have an extension digital asset investor pointing out once again how it's their own words that we're using against the SEC, especially Mr. Hinman, who we have now requested to have a deposition with, and the SEC is denying and trying to fight that.
Can you come up with an instance when they wouldn't or shouldn't be viewed as securities?
In theory, there is a time when a coin may achieve sort of a decentralized utility in the marketplace. There are some coins where you wouldn't have an issuer to regulate.
So it's not the launch that we have. So we are going to start the Ether pre-sale in a couple of weeks. So the Ether pre-sale will be an opportunity for anyone to purchase Ether. Where Ether is the internal currency inside of the Ethereum system, sort of like the XRP and Ripple.
Yeah. Our rules, which look to protect investors by providing disclosure, generally require some centralized authority to make those disclosures. In theory, there may be coins where that lack of central actor would make it difficult to regulate at least the offerings as a securities offering. Okay. That said, if someone's raising money and they have a stake in that and they're promoting that, that's usually the central authority we're looking to for disclosure.
Yes, the earlier you get in, the better a price you get. Yeah, so like in terms of the amounts that the organization is giving to itself, so there's really two slices, right? There's the slice which is sort of like an initial reward slice, where at this point it seems like that's going to be smaller, and then there's also going to be a long-term slice, which will basically provide some long-term capital for development cryptocurrency research. So what we're hoping is that sort of similar to what happened with Mastercoin. If that slice is something like 20%, and then the value of Ether goes up by 5, then we basically have the entire initial BTC that we got all over again.
It's interesting. They definitely gave Ether a free pass. Digital asset investor shared this too from Leonidas, another must follow. He says, for people DMing asking me about a Jet update, his sales have been declining due to a drop in XRP volume. Today, Taco Stand sold almost 5 million XRP, the lowest amount in 7 months. The total held in the Taco Stand plus Ripple wallet is just over 1 billion. At almost 5 million per day, it will take him 215 days to run out. They are talking about Jed McCaleb, who was basically the creator of Mt. Gox, was co-founder of Ripple and the XRP Ledger, and is now running the show over at Stellar. Excuse me, I was a little distracted there. And DAI says he'd be more interested to see who he's selling all that to. I think this might be a more interesting question than who Satoshi Nakamoto is. Now that's interesting. Tight-lipped about XRP lawsuit, but here's what David Schwartz did have to say. And I'm not going to read this whole article. We're just going to read the highlights. Everybody has been asking them, the SEC, for some sort of policy or some sort of guidance or some way to figure out what's allowed and what's not, and they just have not offered any clarity. Over 8 years, they have not offered any, people. It is the only country on the planet that has said XRP is anything other than a currency, whether it's Japan, the UK, Switzerland, Singapore. They all view XRP as a currency. Here, you don't have a distribution problem. You don't have people trying to figure out how to distribute the asset. You don't have selling pressure from people trying to pay their taxes when you give them the asset. It makes more sense to use an established digital asset. It's easier for people to monetize. He goes on talking that choosing XRP will avoid the issue of multiplication of assets altogether. And that being said, it should be pointed out that the Ripple executive was quick to clarify that he isn't in favor of cryptocurrency projects pulling others down to succeed. What we need is for the pie, or to grow the pie. Everybody's got to be on the same team in this stuff right now. It's a major battle. I thought this was really interesting. Are we in a bear market? Listen to this conversation.
We definitely had a pullback, and yes, we've had a 20% pullback, and that makes it a bear market. But you're talking about a product that can move 20% in a day. So I don't think that we can take the old equity benchmarks and apply it to products that can literally move 20-25% in a day. Otherwise, we could be in a bull and a bear market that could rotate 3 times in the same week. I think that this is a dip in a longer bull trend. However, if we break $25,000, if we get down to $20,000, then I'll have been proved wrong. We definitely had a.
I agree with that. I do agree with that. It's a different animal. And with all that, it leads into key Bitcoin price indicator flashes its 5th buy signal in Bitcoin history. I don't know if it's Puel, I don't know. But the multiple just flashed a buy signal for only the 5th time in Bitcoin's history. But its creator cautions that a plunging hash rate and China's miner purge are important factors to consider. Getting reports that the most awesomely named indicator just gave its 5th buy signal in Bitcoin history. Looking good, yes, but remember the Puel multiple reacts to hash rate movements too, and hash rate follows price, not the other way around. Still interesting. Ethereum looks to retake 2K days before London hard fork. Big breakout ahead. After the dip, ETH is in consolidation and looks ready for the break higher. With the only pivot in the way, the triple top around 2045 is set at the next price target. Let's go. We will follow. It talks about the Bitcoin correlation, what the London hard fork does and why that might be a factor, and the fact that there is a supply squeeze. The backing will be particularly boosted as the base fee. One of the 2 components of the fee structure that will be ushered in by the London upgrade will be burn. This burning effect will limit the supply of Ether and bring an end to the infinite supply crisis of Ethereum. So it will add a slight deflationary aspect to it. They're still mining, so I don't know how that works when they go to proof of stake, actually. I guess it is a little different, but anyway, moving on. More good news. Coinbase receives crypto custody license from a German regulator, and this has since been updated. It looks like they are actually going to open up shop in Germany now. So Coinbase, if you own any coin, not financial advice, but I'd hold on to it if it was my coin anyway. Morgan Stanley dabbles in Bitcoin with European Opportunity Fund. According to a quarterly report filed with the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, Morgan Stanley's Europe Opportunity Fund holds 28,000 shares of Grayscale's Bitcoin Trust. The dollar value is $1.3 million. So, it's nothing major for JP Morgan, but they do have exposure now. It's happening, people. This one was fun. NFL legend Tom Brady says laser eyes did not work for Bitcoin. It's pretty funny. I remember when he tweeted this a couple weeks ago. It was pretty awesome, and they don't have it in here, but it showed on the chart. It was right past the top and right before the drop when he tweeted. Who knows if he's in? Are you in on this, Tom? Tom Brady, if you are watching and you are in on the market manipulation, we're watching you. Anyway, foreign CBDCs and stablecoins unlikely to threaten the U.S. dollar, says the vice chair of the Federal Reserve. The potential benefits of a Federal Reserve CBDC are unclear. Developing a CBDC could, I believe, pose considerable risks. So a lot of people think. Some of them apparently do not think so. This is where it gets interesting for me. The message that regulators are trying to send is clear, and I'm going to let this guy tell you about it. It's only 40 seconds.
I really expect to see the increased regulatory kind of monitoring on crypto exchanges to continue over the next couple of months. I think one interesting thing that I've been watching now is really what's going to happen really with a lot of these unregulated exchanges. As you mentioned, some of these exchanges really are not regulated anywhere. They don't really have an onshore presence from that perspective. So I'm really watching to see what's going to happen. I think one thing the message the regulators are trying to send is very clear, is that the era of unregulated exchanges is pretty much coming to an end. And I think, yes, you can try to hide, you can try to go to new jurisdictions, but at one point, whether you like it or not, this is the regulators will come and want to regulate the space. I really expect
regulation is coming, people. I keep talking about it. So know what you hold, because some of these more speculative assets and things that don't have any use case and have zero utility, I think they're in for a rude awakening. And that's also not financial advice, but it makes sense to me taking all this in. And I didn't even think about it until we just watched this together. But talking about the exchanges, Gary Gensler has been on record multiple times saying that he thinks that might be the route to go to start laying out some regulatory framework and stuff, would be to start with the exchanges, because it would be easier than trying to monitor 10,000 crypto assets. So that is interesting. Continuing on, this is pretty much the same thing. The biggest crypto exchanges have grown by working around national regulators. Regulators are starting to take notice. This goes into that a little bit. It's just more about how, Binance has had, I think it's Japan, Canada. There's a few people now. How long is this video? Nope. We're not going to do 8 minutes of that, so never mind. This is repeat news, but for some reason it has resurfaced back to the thing. TSB is banning cryptocurrency purchases for its customers. I do believe, it says, we take our obligation to protect customers extremely seriously and continually review merchants and websites with extensively high fraud rate. So crypto-related fraud is what they're listing as their primary concern. 850 customers lost money on Binance in the span of 1 month. And I do believe that TSB, and I could be wrong, but last time I looked at that, I believe this could affect a potential 5 million customers, if I remember correctly. I could be wrong, though, so, do your own research. But Ethereum surpasses Bitcoin in address activity for the first time. Not a whole lot to say about that, other than Jim Cramer says he is out of Bitcoin and in on Ether because people use it much more for buying things. Talked about NFTs, gaming, and other things. It's much more of a currency, he said. This article is pretty intense. Inside the Reddit forum that wants to see Bitcoin die. And, McCormick's actions get at the real weightiness of these social media-led financial medias. He didn't believe what he was saying at all, but the other people did. Goes into some really interesting stuff there. Should check that out. How close is Bitcoin to its real bottom? And a lot of people say it is still heavily undervalued. I agree with that. You have another buy signal that just flashed that we were just talking about, and then they say the real bottom, when you look at the technicals, is 10,000 would be the real bottom, maybe 15. He's like, I don't think people have need to be anxious to be putting money into Bitcoin right now with respect to the recent price moves. I'm kind of whatever. This is that same guy we covered before. Here's on Yahoo, and then this is not the same narrative, but it covers some of the same points as far as if we have a price drop towards the bottom. Let's see what they say.
Yeah, well, this is the first time I mentioned Bitcoin today, so I'm glad I'm not remiss for that. Let's go to the Wi-Fi Interactive and check out the 7-day price action for Bitcoin, and it's been in a tight range, so I'm just going to put this out there. If it breaks 35,000 to the upside decisively, probably the worst is over, maybe. If it breaks 30,000 to the downside, guess what? That opens up 20,000 pretty quickly. So this could be a very monumental time over the next couple of days for Bitcoin where it decides what it wants to do. I also want to pull up quickly a chart of Ethereum. Over the same time period, it has broken to the upside. So if it's leading, that would be a positive development for Bitcoin, but price has to confirm first.
And keep in mind, guys, timing is everything with this stuff. And BC Backer pointed out something, and we're going to get into that, but I think it ties into this. We're in this monumental area. I talked about all these altcoins, especially XRP, being on these historical support lines and just not taking it out. And then BC Backer talked about how at the end of the daily candles for the last few, you get pretty massive price action there just right there at the close, just to make sure the candles are closing where they need to be. So you don't know if this is like market makers trying to paint their own picture or what's going on here. But the timing of it all is very interesting, and we're gonna get into that right now because we are still in extreme fear. We have been down here for a while. Well, during the COVID-19 sell-off compared to now, BC Backer went into the fact that that lasted for 45 days, and that was the longest amount of time in this cycle. Maybe, I don't know if he said forever, but I know he said in this cycle that it ever remained in extreme fear the entire time. And he was saying that what's making him optimistic is that tomorrow will be day 44 for us. So if the past is going to tell us anything, all this timing, everything's kind of coming to a head right now. This could be the perfect moment for some big news. The fundamentals are all there. I think most of the fundamentals are intact anyway, honestly. It's just a bunch of crazy FUD everywhere. So you get some good news coming out and a little bit of technical action like we're seeing right now, and it could get crazy real fast. Just looking over here, I mean, you see we got green going on everywhere. Everybody's climbed back. We dropped 60%, almost 61% when we fell to the bottom. From the bottom, we are now, if we just go to our current price action, we are already back up 25.8%. So just think about that. And then, on the way back up, this is what's interesting too. If we come from where we are right now and get back to the top, the math doesn't work quite the same, but this is a 102% increase just getting back to where we were. And there's a lot of speculation that we're going to be a little farther up that way. And this is for the whole crypto market. This is not for individual assets here. And just playing into that again, as all this momentum is building and the narrative, I feel a slight narrative shift anyway. You're starting to see a lot more green. It's starting to reach into some of the 30 days. You got some 90 days, a couple across the board. The 7 days finally starting to fill back up. It might not feel like it now, but you got 22%, 20%, 17%, 17%. As far as my personal list goes here, looking much better. Very little red in the second column. So just pay attention, guys. It's coming.